Welcome to the Rooted Lounge, where we break down the 3 core relationships that shape everything about your life as a mom. Your relationship with yourself, your partner, and your kids. We're Monica and Michelle, therapists turned mom coaches, and we know firsthand that motherhood isn't just diapers and to-do lists. It's an identity shift that touches every part of who you are. This ain't your mama's motherhood. Here, we mix real mom talk, a little humor, and a lot of truth to help you feel more grounded, connected, and fully alive in your life as a mom. So grab your coffee, hide in the bathroom if you have to, and let's get into today's conversation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rooted Lounge. I'm super excited for today's episode. We are talking about something that every single mom feels at some point in time, and maybe throughout their entire motherhood. And we're going to kind of kick it off by really having real talk about how what we're talking about affects our lives on a daily basis, and it is being the default parent.
Oh, the default parent.
And really, like, what does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of us know what it means and maybe aren't able to necessarily articulate it. But don't worry, we're going to articulate it for you all and kind of figuring out how it shows up in your life, because we know that it happens, but how can we manage it a little bit better? That maybe it's not necessarily getting rid of being the default parent, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but how we can just manage it a little bit differently so the load doesn't feel so heavy and overwhelming and exhausting. Because really the default parent is the one who remembers it all, who anticipates anything and everything that's going to happen, and really just holds it all emotionally, maybe physically, mentally, right?
Yeah, all the planning and everything. Yeah. So I think, the term default parent has become pretty common in the past, I don't know, few years or maybe more.
Yeah. Definitely something more widespread kind of talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely been become a little bit more of a mainstream kind of term. And yeah, like I think what being a default parent actually looks like has been felt for a very long time and has existed for a very long time. But now there's actually like a term for it.
Right.
So,
and maybe not necessarily described, more as a feeling versus a description of like the actions and the things that we're actually holding
right
on a daily basis.
Yeah. So as Michelle said, I think again, a default parent is that one parent who is basically doing it all, not just the physical labor of, maybe the household stuff and cooking and cleaning and all of those things, but also it's the planning, the remembering, specific dates or events, or like there's a party coming up, so we also have to buy the birthday present for the party.
Managing the schedules,
all of that kind of stuff. So just being the one that's carrying, being really, like, I describe it as like the house manager or like the family manager, where they're the ones that are just have a hand in everything that's happening within the household,
and kind of knows everything that's going on at any given time, and not necessarily needing to ask questions and that kind of stuff.
Kind of being the one to facilitate like all the things.
yeah, for sure. And be the one to like initiate those things. Like, we have to get the birthday present, we have to do this, we have to do that. Right. Kind of like,
so where do you think would be a good place for us to start with this? Because there is a lot to kind of unpack here. So I don't know what makes the most sense for us today.
I'm thinking about maybe how it shows up in our lives, maybe.
Okay.
And just kind of giving some examples of how it ends up popping up for us at any given time. Actually, Monica and I, before the episode, were kind of talking about how challenging this topic is, because it's not necessarily something that's going to completely go away. And I had made the comment about how like our kids naturally, kind of in a nurturing way, like gravitate towards the mom, right? So whether it's like that connection or whatever, that they want mom to do bedtime, they want mom to wake them up in the morning, they want mom to drive them everywhere, right? Like they end up gravitating towards anyways. And I think that's more of like a nature nurture type of situation. And so again, kind of just being really honest that like we are often still the default parents, and just being really open and honest that we've just been able to manage it so that we're not, again, unraveling and feeling this immense burden. And like we're able to articulate when it's getting too much, or we're able to kind of put hard stops with our husbands, partners, when it is too much and like we can't necessarily handle it anymore.
So I think that maybe talking a little bit first about what it sounds and feels like, because I think there are these general kind of themes of things, but then specifically what it might look like in our own lives. So
yeah, I love that.
Maybe first we can talk about, again, like I think we already gave an example of like, you have a birthday coming up. So you are already thinking about, or maybe you already have it in your calendar that you have this event coming up. It's in a couple weeks. So you're already thinking about, okay, well, I have to get to the store, this week to buy the present and whatever, like mail it out and all this stuff. And I think that that's a big one. Like being the one that is constantly remembering special occasions, events, things that are going on, not only in your kids' lives, but like your own life with maybe your friends, and just like holding all of the information that is there. And then, I think that that's a huge one. Like, and anything with maybe like school events as well. I mean, that's pretty much the same kind of gist.
I think like grocery lists. I think about clothes. I think about, I mean, even just where things are in the house, like, just kind of these things that just pop up that we may not necessarily pay attention to in the moment, but they definitely build over time to then create this form of like resentment and scorekeeping. And like, I joke with my husband all the time because he does the dishes in our home. And he'll like ask me where something is, and I'm like, you literally put it away. like I don't do the dishes. Like I don't know where it is. Like you put it away. And that's just like that's a silly banter kind of back and forth. But I literally am like, I have no idea. And then I walk out of the kitchen because like, hello, sir. Like you're the one who did the dishes. But I think that over time, obviously that's a different example because he's actually doing the dishes, but I'm not going to hold where everything is in my kitchen when, like, yes, do I know where things are for sure, but he does put them back in different places. And then I don't actually know where they are.
He's trying to keep you on your toes,
Yeah. But again, like that can kind of create that resentment that and scorekeeping that we don't want to do, which often ends up happening when we are the default parent and don't engage in the actions to try to reduce that load.
I definitely want to say more about that stuff. But, just to give some other examples of like what it sounds and feels like is, I think on the side of resentment is feeling this like frustration and irritation, maybe a little bit of rage of like, why do I always have to be the one to do everything? Or, why am I the one that's picking up all the time? Just feeling like you're the only one that's doing things. I think that's a really big one. I'm trying to think of what else, because there's so many different examples, but it's interesting. So I'll give a personal example that came up while you were just talking. And I typically do the grocery shopping, and then I will put stuff away. So I ask for help with bringing the groceries in, taking the groceries out of the bags, but I like to put it away because I have a system.
For sure.
And there was one time, I don't remember why, but there was one time where my husband put everything away. And I used to get so irritated when, whether it was my husband or my kids that were like, hey, where's this? And I'm like, look in the pantry. Like it's literally in there, or it's in the fridge, you know where we keep the apples. Like the apples are in the same place they always are, kind of thing. And this one time that my husband put stuff away and I was looking for something and it wasn't in the spot where I would normally put it. And I got so irritated, first of all, that it wasn't where I would have put it.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up doing the same thing that I felt like my husband does to me.
Sure.
Which
Great example.
I was like, where's the ketchup? And he was like, it's right over there. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not in here. And he was like, yes, it is. And he came over and I was like, oh. And then literally in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I literally just did the thing that like it's typically, in the reverse. And it was a huge aha moment for me.
Definitely.
I was like, okay, I need to rethink the way that I think about this, because where I typically would just get aggravated all the time with like, why, do people have to keep coming to me and asking me for everything? I'm like, why can't they just use their own eyes? But then it made me think of, okay, I'm the one that goes to the store. So I can be in and out of there like that because I have that whole store like mapped out exactly. You ask me for something, I know exactly what aisle it's in. And the same goes for like my home. Like I know where everything is because that's my responsibility. I do that task. So how can I possibly expect someone else to know it as well as I do when I'm the one that's doing it? So that was like a huge shift for me. And
that's a really good example. Really good example.
Yeah. So, do you have any other like ideas or examples of how default parenting kind of shows up for people?
I'm like drawing a blank right now because I think that was a really, really good example. But I'm sure some will come to my mind. I don't know why I'm just like, what?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm sure other things will too. So I guess let's kind of back up a little bit and talk about how, so we talked about the how. So why don't we talk a little bit more about like the why? Like why does this default parenting even happen?
Yeah. I mean, we always come back to societal conditioning. We talk about this in so many of our episodes.
Yeah.
We talk about it with so many of our clients, I mean, even just in real talk, like mom to mom talk, not even just like in our business, that the societal conditioning of what moms hold just really shows up in a lot of these different themes and topics that we talk about. And we're just expected to anticipate the needs of not just our kids, but like everybody. Which again is also insane because it was like, okay, I can understand the anticipation of our needs for like our kids when, they're babies and stuff like that. But then like we have to do the same thing with our partner. I don't know where that kind of started. Because our partners are not our children and they serve a very different role. But I think that is, again, this underlying culture that women and moms just have. I also think we're wired a little bit different. And by I mean, we are wired very different. The way that they think about things is just very different than the way that we think about things. So I mean, that comes into play of why it happens all the time. And not for nothing, the only reason why I know this, one, obviously because we've been working in the field for a long time, but Just by conversations I have with my husband, you know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, like you really don't think the way that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of an aha moment for me. And I don't know if any of you moms have kind of had that realization with your partner as well, where like you're having more of these dynamic conversations, maybe talking about a default parent, and you're just like staring at them like, oh no, like really this is not going through your head.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up the fact that we're wired differently, because I was gonna make 2 points about like why are we expected to anticipate needs, or why is it the moms that are typically the default parent? And I think that was one of the points that I was gonna make is, I mean, biologically, like we are different.
Yes.
Like men and women are different.
Yes.
And
our brains also change when we become moms.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yep.
our our emotion center in our brain is, I don't even remember it's like significantly larger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like data driven.
Yes. Yep.
And to be able almost to hold more versus our partner.
Yeah. So I think that's a big one, is that sometimes we forget that we are different.
Yeah,
and
we do.
Not only the fact of those like biological differences, but the fact that too, as two separate individual people, we have our own strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
So
right.
There's that layer of it as well.
Right.
But the other point that I was thinking of was also, I just think for some reason that we're still operating off of an outdated system where, and I think we talked about this in a previous episode too, where we talked about how, at least, for myself, I grew up in a family where my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad, was the one who worked outside of the home, and that's how it was my entire life. And um, everyone has different experiences of even specifically what that looked like in their own family.
Right.
For mine, even though my dad was the one that was working outside of the home, my dad was still super involved, with our extracurriculars and homework and things of that nature. But, it was my mom that was home, cooking, cleaning, picking us up from school, dropping us off, practice wherever we had to be. And, that sort of stuff. But I think that is something, because I was raised in that, I know for me personally, that has a large effect on how I parent, and the parenting dynamic between me and my husband. But I do also think that as a society, that there are a lot of these themes that very much still exist based off of that way of life looking.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Like family and households being structured in that way.
Yep.
And
it's still potentially working for people too.
Oh, sure.
Right?
No,
like I think that's
sure.
really important to note that it's the default parent for moms particularly. Like I know a lot of moms who embrace that, right? And it's,
absolutely, yeah. We are no means saying that that's a wrong way of doing things or any of that. But I think, our point is, given that we are working moms,
right?
And we don't work because we have to. We work because we have careers, we have passions, and we enjoy the work that we do. So I think that's what makes it more difficult nowadays, where it is a lot more common for both parents to be working. So having to rethink the way that running a household looks, because you can't base it off of that outdated operating system when that's not how things are anymore for many families. Not all families, but many of them.
Yes, absolutely. And because there is this and this kind of goes to why it happens, like the emotional versus kind of physical labor of things, because I think a lot of times when we do think about, we're specifically talking about like the male role, obviously, if there's two males, two women, right, like the dynamic is going to look very different. But something that my husband often says is, I want to be the provider, right, which is kind of the like maybe the old school way of thinking, right, where he's thinking about the finances and he wants to provide the financial support. Maybe he doesn't have a physical labor job, but a lot of men do, right? It obviously is very different, from household to household and how it looks, but more so than not nowadays when two parents are working, we're carrying a lot of the physical and emotional labor. Yeah. And I don't mean physical, like, working labor, I mean, like driving the kids places and constantly moving and, kind of direction and dictating and like that kind of like physicality of it. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my head's going in a lot of different directions with this. I wonder which direction I want to go down with this. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I want to get to the like what to do about it.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
The how to actually handle this.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's obviously, utility in raising awareness around it and being able to understand like where it might come from and all this stuff, which is all good and dandy. But for me personally, I'm always someone who leans very much towards once I have a decent enough understanding of something, I'm like, okay, now what do we do about it?
Right. Like, well, and especially because I think we're seeing and probably understanding the default parent a lot more now, kind of going the first few things that we were talking about, where it's so mainstreamed now that I feel like every time, again, you go on social media or you're talking to friends or whatever, like they might not be saying default parent, but they're saying something along the lines of that. And so the awareness may already be there. Like all of you may already be very aware that you are the default parent. So I agree, kind of maybe segueing into shifting out of that. And even again, if it's kind of fluid where you're shifting in and out of it regularly on a daily basis, weekly basis. And then obviously we'll talk about kind of ways that we've implemented things into our own lives, things that we've shared with our clients to implement, I think would be a good segue.
Yeah. And I think that I want to speak on the part of like shifting in and out and how there's fluidity around it. And I think that that's a really great way of thinking about it is number one, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing.
No,
like
it's so
there's not a specific formula that's just gonna like work for everyone.
No.
I think that these are general kind of things, and you have to find what works specifically for your family. In your relationship.
And the dynamics within that 1,000,000%.
So for me, I think one of the absolute most important things here is one, like, yes, the awareness of what a default parent is. What does that look like for you and your family, and like how you would prefer it to look, I guess. So that awareness piece, but then it's also about how do you personally understand it? Like how do you feel about it? Are you okay with it? Are there aspects of it that you're okay with or not okay with?
Totally. Are there responsibilities and roles that you do want to take the default parent like role? Or because it can totally, because what works for us might not work for you. You know, absolutely,
exactly. And then once you have a good idea of how you're thinking and feeling about that and what that looks like for you and your family, then I think the most important part is how best to communicate that and around that with your partner.
And like stop doing it automatically, right? What default is just is automatic. I mean, they're basically the same word, right? Yeah. So it's like that's what we just automatically go to, and so by doing these things, having that communication with your partner, you're slowing that reactivity down and doing it more intentionally with roles and responsibilities, and it being a little bit more strategic, I guess, rather than on autopilot, automatic default, right? Like some of all those like words that can kind of pop up in those moments.
Yeah, and I'll speak on how that kind of showed up for me personally, where as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I definitely in my early years of motherhood, I was very much I'm going to do it all. I'm not going to ask for help because that shows weakness if I have to ask for help. And really just trying to, be this like super mom essentially, and a super wife too. And it got to a point where I just realized that I was carrying so much resentment. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is not good. Like this is only
it hurts so bad.
Yeah,
you know?
like not only
just, like so heavy.
Did it hurt me because of the weight of it, but it obviously didn't do anything for anyone around me. So I'm like, okay, like things need to change. I need to figure out how how to make this be different, because this is not working and it will not continue to work. Like it's not sustainable at all.
Yep.
So I think that was the very first thing, was actually recognizing that like it wasn't working, and that I felt really crummy about it. So but then it was a matter of really sharing my experience with my husband and being like, I remember one time actually telling him, I gave him an example of everything that goes through my head in like one day.
Yeah, I've done that before too.
And he was like, oh my God. He was like, oh my God, like I had no idea. And I'm like, well, yeah, how could you, right?
Yeah.
And there was another time, similarly, where I used that same kind of approach, where I was like, okay, you just said this. Now here's what's happening in my head right now. And then I like spewed out everything that was going through my head. And he was like, whoa. And I'm like, not, and it's not to, again, place any blame or any of that stuff, but it's more of just like, I'm trying to fill you in on what's happening for me.
Yeah. And also you understanding what's happening for him too. Yeah. Or just like your partner. Like, that really needs to be that dynamic conversation. And kind of going back to what I said about like, we think very differently, like him having this aha moment about like where your thoughts were kind of cycling to. And again, us kind of realizing that like, oh, your brain doesn't do that. Okay.
Yeah. There's so many different like aspects to it, but essentially that, I think being able to share my experience with him was wildly helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
It helped us to be able to understand each other more. And then because of that, we were able to really like game plan and be like, okay, so how are we going to do this differently?
Yep.
And we had to rework it many times.
Oh, because, absolutely. Talk about the fluidity and
like I remember one time I was like, okay, how about you take on like packing lunches? And that didn't work. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take that one back on. How about you do, I think it was like laundry or something instead. And like that worked. And it was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But it's this thing. And like, I tell people this all the time to couples is, you have to remember you're on the same team. You're on the same team. And so often couples are working against each other. And well, I'm doing this and you're not doing enough of that, and doing all this scorekeeping business.
And guilty, like I've been there, you know, and it talk about like it being fluid, like it still happens, like in my life, in my household, you know, and that it's just so not realistic that it'll never happen. I mean, you have two people plus your kids, right? It's always going to be dynamic. And so always bringing it back to the here and now, and needing to recenter and reharmonize and try different things. And so totally, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So I think, you know, the moral of the story is really that there's those two parts where you have to understand for yourself what's going on for you and your experience. And then also being able to follow it up with, like, how do I communicate my experience with my partner so that we can then kind of game plan, whether that be, you know, shared calendars or rotating like tasks or
specific responsibilities. Like I had said, like my husband does the dishes, I do the laundry, even though now he does his own laundry because, you know, I have my laundry, I have my son's laundry, gonna have my daughter's laundry, you know.
That's what we do. I do mine and the kids, he does his own. But then, like, because I'm washing my kids' laundry, he'll do the folding.
Right.
So we have those specific things, and like,
and those are kind of like, I feel like every household, like some, you know, those are maybe more of the easier tasks to delegate. I think it's some more that those hold mental load, don't get me wrong, because you have to do them on a daily, weekly basis. But I know for me, like with having a medically compromised child, I mean, I took on all of the medical stuff, you know what I mean? And which, again, most moms do. Who's bringing them to doctor appointments? Who knows what diagnosis? Who knows this? Who knows that? And so even just in that realm, right? Like, what was I able to give to my husband to be like, this is yours, and I'm not going to think about it.
Yeah, I just thought of something else that was like really, really huge for me, that I think will be greatly helpful to people, is knowing when to let go.
Ooh, good one.
And what I mean by that is, again, for me personally, I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Wanting things done the way that you do it.
I have and had very high expectations of many things. And I had to get to a point where I had to ask myself, like, is this worth me, like, dying on this hill? Like, should I really, like, you know, double down and make this a thing, or is this something that I can truly, like, let go of, because it will make our lives easier? And there were a lot of things that I had to do that with, and you know, it was like a complete game changer, because I feel like I resisted it because I thought it was going to make my life harder, but it didn't. It made my life so much easier. And not to say that meant like giving my husband more, you know, responsibility.
Sure.
Because I'll say that what it actually was is that I chose to still take on the majority of the management piece of things, like, again, remembering the events and keeping track of those types of things, because that's a strength of mine.
Yeah.
And that was the big difference, was that I was holding on to this expectation that this should be important to him. And if he's not doing it in this way, then clearly it's not. And that just wasn't the case at all. It was just a matter of the management of things just was more of my strength. So I took on the tasks, but I let go of the attachment that I had with it. So that was like just a huge weight lifted.
And the word that came to mind when you were saying that too is autonomy, where I think as moms, I mean, we have a lot of autonomy, right? Like we kind of take on this role, and when we're able to kind of let go and allow our partners to kind of do it in their way, even if it's okay, this is your responsibility, but it also gives them the autonomy because they are adults and they can think for themselves. And yes, they may not think like we do, but it also gives them the opportunity to kind of build their own confidence as a parent. And but that's only done like when we are also able to let go. We're not micromanaging, it needs to be done in this way, this time, this how. Like if they just do it and our kids are fine, right? Which 9 times out of 10 they are. We just have to watch it happen and be okay with it, which is a difficult task in and of itself. But you give them that opportunity, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be like, I don't need to be the default parent today.
Yeah.
Or ask to be like, I don't want to be the default parent today.
Yeah. And where this brings me to is how this affects your relationship with your partner. Because I think part of where how this is tied with the part of like people feeling like their relationship has changed after kids. I think this is a really big part of it, is the fact that so if we use the example of mom being default parent and her feeling like she has to be the one to manage her kids and essentially her husband too, then how is she ever going to see her partner as an adult, let alone her partner, and be like attracted to him and like want to spend time with him as a peer, as a partner, because you just see him as one of the kids, because like, oh, this is someone else I have to take care of, this is someone else that I have to tell them what to do and when to do it. And like you feel alone in that. And I think
they're gonna feel it too, right?
Oh, like,
they don't need a mom either. I really, and I mean, again, like, not that I say that to myself, but I do have to remind myself often that like we are in a partnership. Like, he can take responsibility, and I have to give him the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, no, it's such a good point. And I think knowing, I think it's important to check in with yourself of like, okay, take a little bit of an inventory of, hey, how am I feeling about things? How am I treating my partner? Am I treating them as a partner? Am I treating them like one of the kids? Because I think that the better able you are to actually be a united front and truly work together as a team, not only will that help things operate more smoothly as a family, but there's going to be so much more connection with your partner. Like, because I don't know, like for me personally, when I see my husband, like, I don't know, taking something on that maybe he wouldn't normally, or even just like basically like playing with my kids or something, like it is a turn on. I'm like, it is like, oh my God, seeing my husband be like a super present, involved, dad. I'm like, oh,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just going to build on your relationship over time, like as partners, and being able to redistribute those things, and it creates more connection, and it's going to give you like more opportunities too to just come together, right? Like,
yeah. So I think, just wanting to highlight that with the perspective of Rooted Motherhood, which for those that don't know, is the philosophy that we kind of operate off of, where there's 3 core relationships in your life: the one with yourself, the one with your partner, and the one with your kids. And obviously today we're talking very much about the one with your partner. But these are real life examples of things that could affect that relationship.
Yep.
And we're also talking, specifically on how you can make things work a lot better.
Yeah.
By naming what's going on, by being able to be really open and transparent with your partner about, how we need to kind of pivot things and make things, just work a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Because it really does help to strengthen the connection that you have with your partner. And then that just ripples into
all the other
everything else,
Yep. Yep. And all the other relationships. And that's what I love so much about Rooted Motherhood, is that these core relationships really make up who we are as moms.
Yeah.
And they all affect one another. And so if you kind of think about something like the default parent, of how much that can affect not only your relationship with your partner, but your relationship with yourself and how you're feeling about what you're doing, right? And then again, what are your kids seeing?
Yeah.
Is this affecting your relationship with your kids on either side of the spectrum? And so they're talk about kind of a evolving door. Like, these core relationships are really intertwined with one another. However, if we feel balanced in all three, we're going to likely be more rooted in our motherhood and feel just this sense of fulfillment and peace. And
when
again, it's not
comes into harmony.
Yeah. And yes, these things can get out of balance really quickly. Maybe only two are in balance and one isn't, right? But when you're still constantly kind of working and I kind of, again, moving in this fluid type of way, those things are going to feel really good for you.
Yeah.
And you are going to feel really rooted in your motherhood and in your motherhood journey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think, to kind of recap on some of these things, to give you some practical, things that you can do. Again, one thing, I think, doing your own kind of inventory. What are you carrying that no one else is seeing?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not even recognizing that this is affecting you. So really allowing yourself some space to kind of check in with yourself, and then, of course, like, check in with your partner as well.
Yeah. What are the things that you want to do? What are the things you don't want to do? What are the things you're good at, right? You said that, like, this is something I'm really good at. I will take on that ownership. So that kind of mental load audit.
Yeah. And couple that with letting go of the things that don't serve you or the relationship or the household or the family. Like, you are not the only one who has to do things, let alone you're not the only one that does them right. There are other ways of doing things, and maybe it's not your way, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. Actually might end up making your life easier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Redefining what control also looks like.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And it's not about doing everything the way, and that kind of goes to what you were just saying about, like, doing it right. Letting go of some of that control that will just lessen the burden for you and give the autonomy to your partner.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much the gist of the default
parenting
mode. Yeah, that happens in so many families. But again, it's not about knocking the default mode or any of that stuff. It's more of just raising awareness. And if you're noticing that it is impacting you or your family negatively, then hopefully some of the things we talked about today can be helpful for you moving forward. And that, like, you don't have to be the manager of your family, and you really deserve to be part of it. Not just kind of like the one overseeing everything that's happening, but actually being a part of it, releasing control. And that doesn't mean that, you're losing control. you're releasing it intentionally and
Yeah, I love that.
deliberately in order for you to gain peace and harmony.
Beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. Great way to end.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you guys enjoyed this episode, give us a like, share some of your thoughts on it in the comments below. We'd love to hear, what kind of stood out to you.
Yeah, what your experience is. Are you the default parent?
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And yeah, make sure to visit us on Instagram at beyond.being.mamas, and we will see you next time.
Bye.